You're listening to The Raw Reaction on the Angry Marks Podcast Network.
Welcome to Raw Reaction, where listening to our show is more dangerous than a Donald Trump rally. Tonight, I'm with my main man, Big Doug, not to be confused with Big Dick. Doug, welcome to the Raw Reaction tonight, buddy.
Hey, how's it going? I didn't want to be confused with Roman Reigns there. That was close to being the big dog. There's only one big dog in the yard.
Yes, and I'll tell you, Doug, you are our saving grace tonight. Otherwise, I'd be talking to myself tonight. Where are you coming to us from tonight, Doug?
I am hailing from glorious Philadelphia, where Raw also was hailing from tonight. Although I did not go to Raw, I'm not speaking to you live on site amongst the throngs of people leaving. I stayed in my comfy apartment and watched that interesting show.
Well, that's awesome. I had no idea you were from Philly before you got on the line tonight. I'm here in Connecticut. Big Dick is from New Jersey as well as I originally. So we have the Northeast flavor. Now, I got to tell you, our listening audience, and I make no joke, you asked before we got on the line, I wasn't able to answer your question. Is there a language barrier with any of our fans? I guess technically there is, and I shit you not. Over 70% of our fans are Canadians, which are, hardcore wrestling fans. So once in a while we might move a little too fast, but I don't want to alienate any of our Canadian friends tonight. So,
no.
Glad to have you.
See, now I don't know whether I should play to the crowd. I don't know.
Well, we did that our first 2 years here. We went total heel in Canada, but we've learned to love these people. And the ones that are still left listening, they're actually really loyal and good fans. So we don't want to piss them off.
No, I got more than a few Canadian friends.
There you go. Well, I got to ask you, Doug. So before you got on the line, actually, I was talking to Killer Kev. We kind of had our pre-Raw reaction to Raw Reaction tonight. And Kev asked me kind of like, what did you think of it? And I was saying to him, I really liked the first hour and a half, and I probably would have tweaked some things on the second hour and a half. So, I guess where I would start, and I want to get your take on it. I was saying to Kev I just thought the Kevin Owens versus AJ Styles match, forget the outcome of it. I thought the actual match itself was one of the best matches I've seen on Raw all year.
I agree. Do you know the star ratings? Do you go by star ratings, or do you avoid that?
We don't really give them. I'm very aware of how they work.
You're familiar though, right?
Oh, absolutely. I know what it is. I know what a 1 is and a 5.
I think that match was, to use that like an analogy, that was like a 4.5 star match, but that ending knocked that half star right off it. Like,
right.
I was amazed that match even happened, and believe me, I flipped the fuck out when it did, because I was like, well, at least, Raw will probably be shitty tonight, so I'm not going to miss anything. It's not like they're going to give us, and I literally said in a couple places, no, you're going to get Owens versus AJ or something like that, and it's the first goddamn match that they put on.
That's awesome.
And it was awesome. It was kind of maybe a little sad, because, that's like a 5-star pay-per-view. Use stars again. That's like a main event for any other federation, and it's sort of just another match here on Raw. But the only way I can enjoy WWE in general right now is like mostly on the network and just looking at things on a match by match basis when it comes to like the new stuff. So as a match, it was awesome. Probably, I think, the best TV match we've gotten so far. If if I remember correctly. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, definitely. I agree with you all the way. From my perspective, I didn't even know they wrestled on SmackDown, and they showed kind of a replay of kind of that match, and they showed a couple highlights, and it looked like Jericho came down to the ring, interfered, and led to a Kevin Owens win. So I assumed in this match you'd have WWE 50-50 booking, and Jericho would come down and interfere, and this time it would backfire, and it would cost Owens the match, and AJ would win. Now that didn't happen here.
Oh no, well you gotta know. I mean, they assume that people that watch Raw don't watch anything else and don't remember. I mean, this is a company that thinks its audience are complete idiots. Like, sure. I think that sorry, I don't mean to offend any actual like hardcore marks that are listening. I mean, I'm not sure what my credentials are to get me on this prestigious show. I'm very grateful that I am, but I can tell you that my Smart Mark card is long and strong, and I'm one of those guys that watches, and I with an equal amount of love and seething hatred for some of the stuff that we get, especially tonight on a 3-hour show that was like 1 hour of greatness, 1 hour of mediocrity, and 1 hour of just complete drizzling shit. And I think you know which hour that was.
Well, to your point, I don't want to lose it here. Okay. I kind of agree with what you're saying about, they in the way they booked this, it's like as if even though they recapped it for us, SmackDown wasn't there. Well, AJ Styles, and before we actually talk about the match itself, the ending itself saw Chris Jericho interfering, and it cost Styles the match, and Styles kind of looked like a fool that he lost focus when he had Owens in the calf killer, because essentially Jericho was on the apron and didn't go in the ring, and just AJ lost his cool and came down.
Oh, well, that's one of their favorite conventions, is right. The distraction roll-up finish by the idiot face.
Well, here's the thing. Here's where I'm going with this, and this is what scares me. You tell me if you agree, Doug. Later in the show, they have Jericho face Fandango in a very fast match, and AJ tries to return the favor, and AJ comes out and basically chants Y2 jackass walking down the aisle, completely distracting Jericho. Jericho, however, is smart enough to avoid that trick and code breaks Fandango for a very easy win. Right. If I didn't know any better, knowing that he got booked, Styles, on a pin roll up and then a pin roll up on Monday, so you have it on SmackDown, on Raw, and then he can't even interfere and cost Jericho the match. He looks like a complete moron here. Why are they booking AJ that way when he's so ridiculously over?
Well, I mean, there's probably a couple of reasons, because, and chief among them is you really never know how Vince feels about anything until the day of the show, sometimes a couple hours into the show, depending. But like, one thing that did strike me is, I love AJ, I want to see him win and succeed. They're spending a whole lot of money on him, so it's nice to see them maximizing, or at least as much as they can maximize on the potential on the guy. But in all honesty, it did hit me that heel Jericho as a heel is so good, so much better than cool dad Jericho that he was being beforehand. That was starting to make, I don't know, me and maybe you, I don't know, cringe. But heel Jericho is so good and so effective that one thing they desperately need is more strong heels. And given that, it occurred to me that I actually wouldn't mind if Jericho came out with the win at WrestleMania to keep him strong if he's going to stick around. If he's just going to, F off and go do more dive bar tours with Fozzy for another year or so, well, all right, and then absolutely he should not win. But if he's going to stick around, he's such an amazingly great heel and effective at his job that maybe he should pick up the win against AJ. It's not like the match isn't going to be, pardon the phrase, phenomenal, because I think we know it is. We've already seen it, but that's another commentary.
Well, I love what you said there, because I would agree that two of the best heels on the roster up until 2 weeks ago haven't even been utilized, and that being Jericho, who's reminding you of his 2011 run and how great that was.
2008, I think.
Oh, absolutely. And then don't kill me for this, and I have not watched TNA in forever, nor do I have any interest in it. But the last
Why would I kill you for that?
Well, here's where I'm going with it. You have Bully Ray just being wasted on the roster. He's in the pit. I mean, he's an incredible heel.
Yeah, you're right. And although from what I've, and I try to I restrict all my information from what I know and what to be and believe to be like the accredited sites like Dave Meltzer, Wrestling Observer, and PWI and that kind of stuff. But apparently people have told him at least that they are talking to Bubba, I guess, because he'll never be Bully Ray again. To like, maybe you should break out, and you are a great heel, and they have faith in him to do that. But he said it himself on one of Jericho's podcasts. He doesn't want to be a single star. He never wanted to be. He did it because they asked him to at the time, and he was, like in TNA, he was good at it, and he was effective. But he wants to be a tag team wrestler. That's what he's always wanted to be, so he's happy to stay that way. So I think it's a combination of not a combination. The question is like, can they talk him into doing it? If so, then I agree. Absolutely right now. Sorry, Devon, I love you, but Bully Ray was amazing. And if he can get one last run in WWE, he absolutely should.
Right. And you know what? I mean, that's Bully Ray's run as the champion is the last time I think anyone watched TNA, and the last time it was interesting. And, but I do commend him not turning his back on his partner in that vein. But, here they are, Bully Ray or Bubba Ray and Devon continuously coming out, reminding the crowd they're heels. They're in this feud with the Usos tonight, or with the Usos.
Or as I saw them refer to as the Boosos,
that's where it's going. So the Usos, come down, they beat the shit out of the Dudleys after they put a hurting on Gold Dust and R-Truth.
Overwhelming silence, I might add.
The crowd doesn't give a shit. They don't care.
No. Yeah. And it's mostly hate association with Reigns, which is kind of a shame for all involved, but it's not.
We've seen enough on the Usos on TV. If you've watched them wrestle over the last 5 years, it's the same boring crap they've done with injuries.
True.
I'm not by any means a big Usos fan. I think that they are not. They're not.
One trick pony.
Yeah, they're all right, but you have much better players on the roster than them that aren't used at all. I don't know.
I do agree that they are very stale.
Yeah,
last year when I think it was last year, maybe it was even 2 years ago. I don't know, when they were having the feud against the Wyatts back when Harper and Rowan were a tag team that should have not to go all too off the rails, but should have gotten a title run in themselves. But I thought that was a great series of matches in the program and everything like that. But I agree, they've just been spinning the face wheels and coming out, and you say oos and we say yeah, that's great, and they're happy and they're happy and they're dancing and it's great, and it's getting pretty old.
It's horrible when they're backstage and they're in a confrontation and they're saying to the person they're talking to, "Would you say oos?" Like, what is that? It's so bizarre the way they talk. It's uncomfortable. It's douchey. It's just really bad. And when you have guys like Jordan and Gable down in NXT ready to go,
oh God, yeah, we're so good.
Well, then why are we wasting time, right? Why are we wasting time with the Usos? Not saying that Usos shouldn't be on TV, but they shouldn't be the crown jewel or tag team division. Not that they are, because the New Day just went and took that spot. They didn't earn that spot. They went and took it. No one gave it to them. The New Day is just amazing on the mic, and they're great workers and they're a great team. But there's no doubt without the Usos injury, the Usos would have been the ones that were running the division. So I'm kind of glad it worked out the way it did.
Yeah, that's basically the state of the company now. I started calling it a land of missed opportunities lately, and of course in all the places I frequent. But it's kind of like a land of missed opportunities, and it seems like any guy that gets a chance, that really good breakout team, like the New Day did when they were able to. It's either a missed opportunity or something bad happens that somebody else is able to take advantage of, which is sort of that's the Cinderella story that they love to tell. They love their documentaries. If this didn't happen, I reached out, I wouldn't have been able to get that chance, and I took my one up. I grabbed the brass ring and I was able to run with the ball, and they love saying that. But if every good thing you have is set up because something else didn't work, that's not good.
I agree. Well, it comes back down to the 50-50 booking, man. It's like anyone can go on a run, and there's no hierarchy. There
Right.
hasn't been in 10 years. I mean,
Which,
I would
which
say
is why when you say like what about Gable and Jordan, or I'm sorry, American Alpha, because everything has to be branded now. Like why are we dealing with this and the Usos when this team is ready to go? I mean, honestly, at this point, the more I watch, I don't want anybody to leave NXT. I want them to get paid. I want them to get me making main roster money and contracts, however it works. But I don't want them to leave at all, because I mean, those days used to be, everybody's like, when is Finn Balor coming? Come on, it'll be the most amazing thing in the world. Like, when is he coming? And now it's like, for God's sakes, don't leave, because you're just gonna get screwed up. There isn't anything that doesn't get screwed up now.
I was positive, with Cena's injury. I was positive that, Undertaker Finn Balor would have happened. I mean, it would have just been what a chance to pass the ball to Finn, if you're ever going to bring him up. But you know what? To your point, I mean, what confidence do you have that it'll be done right? I mean, and
not only that, I mean, the entrance is great, and he moves a lot of merch, and he will, and everybody loves it and everything like that. But I mean, were you watching those? When they had those NXT tapings along the time of Brooklyn, when he was wrestling in the Raw ring. Dude is tiny. Like, super fit and built, and one of the greatest wrestlers ever, and great, amazing entrance, but they really need to vary up, but that's my own opinion. I'm a little tired of the demon, motif, but like, everything's wonderful and like, it's just incredible, right? But he is tiny. And like you said, like, what confidence do you have when you just see Vince McMahon just not be able to get down with anybody that isn't a huge roided up freak?
It is true, and
you can't even point to Mysterio as like, wow, he was always booked really strong, but he had a one run with the world title, and he was booked like a joke the entire time because Vince could not get over the fact that this little guy.
Well,
God damn
it, there is some truth to that. I the only wrestler I've seen that. And it felt ridiculous when it was being booked, but it actually played out where I actually like bought it, was Daniel Bryan's first world title run, where he was feuding with Big Show and Henry. It actually worked, and it shouldn't have. And I realized the brilliance of Daniel Bryan during that run, because he was able to make those matches so good.
He made it work.
Definitely he made it work. But I don't know if Finn Balor could make it work, and that remains to be seen. But you can, the beauty of the roster right now is you can book him against the AJ Styleses, against the Chris Jericho's as heels while he's champion. So you just got to keep him away from, like, here's the thing, Doug. I'll put it out there. Brock Lesnar is amazing, and he is dominant, and he is what people really want to pay to see. And no disrespect to the indie scene or any of these guys in NXT, but anyone who's put in the ring with Brock Lesnar, unless there is a bullshit screw job finish, the dude was UFC world champion, and he's literally better and more intense than anyone out there. He should be your world champion, and no one should ever beat him, period. I
agree. Although to a point, it's because they allow him to be booked that way. And I guarantee you there's a recipe for that. Number one, they're paying so much money for him. Number two, he's big. Like, they could bring in Conor McGregor. I'm not sure. I can't remember how tall Conor McGregor is. I don't think he's very tall. So, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think he's like a huge, like, big. He's not the heavyweight champion. I know that, like, big guy. You could bring him in, and he's money and everything, right? Incredible. Let's say he's the greatest.
He would be like, wrestler. He's small. He's like 150 pounds. I mean, he'd be.
Exactly. Like, you can bring him in for the same money and the same credentials and everything, and he's not going to be pushed the same way, because he's lacking a couple of things that really just gives Vince a hard on, and that is size and muscle. And that's where Brock was able to, thank God for it, because otherwise we'd be missing out on a lot. A lot of luster would be gone.
There is that comic book element, though, to wrestling, whereas, like, I don't know, man. I mean, again, I must have missed the dirt sheets for a month, because at Royal Rumble, I'm sitting there keeping track of who's supposed to come out, and I'm the only idiot that didn't know Triple H was going to enter the Royal Rumble, and I assumed it was Wade Barrett. And I read the dirt sheets. I just didn't happen to that few weeks. I was busy, and I never really put one and one together that Triple H would enter himself. And I'm waiting for Wade Barrett to come out with 30. And I gotta tell you, now I'm one of the few people that was actually surprised seeing the old legend come down the aisle, to go get the job done himself, all jacked up. It was cool, man. It was cool. That's what wrestling is,
Yeah.
and sometimes that's a cool thing too.
I'm not the biggest. I'm not I call it many H's. I'm not a many H's apologizer at all. Like I'm sort of a fan. Obviously I respect him for NXT, but I respect him lately. I mean, he's a great, like, just his wrestling is just phenomenal. Like the Ziggler match, what was it, last week? The Ambrose match and Roadblock, both were phenomenal matches. Like, he looks great in the Rumble. Yeah, he seems to get better and better with age, and I respect that. I also, I watched in 2003 where we just had to deal with 25 minutes promos that drove me insane. You know what I mean? And watched him. What happened?
Oh, I'm with you. It was terrible. The wrestling was good. The mic work was it was too much.
Yeah, I watched him try to, bring in people that he's like, he try to make himself, I'm Ric Flair, I can have a great match with anybody. It's the point where we're like, for God's sake, please stop wrestling Scott Steiner. This is horrible. Like, I love the meme where he's covered in every single world title belt, including the Divas Championship. Like, him coming out with a shovel. Like, yes, so it's weird. It's sort of like wrestling industry. Like, there's an equal amount of good and scum to it, and he's no different. He's a walking embodiment of it. But yeah, I knew he was coming out. I didn't know he was coming out the Rumble. I just, I read the same dirt sheets, and it was always just, wouldn't this be an interesting idea? Who knows if it'll happen? But I mean, it certainly could, and it seems that way. So when he came out, I wasn't surprised, and I wasn't surprised when he won. And I marked out. I was like, yeah, that's awesome. I thought it was a great ending. I've said this before. I don't have any problem with him being the champion or being in the main event, whatever, if they can decide which one is the main event of WrestleMania. I have no problem with either of those things. I have a problem that he needed to be, that they've handled that they booked all this other stuff so horribly wrong that he needed to be, like, I'm not as jazzed about Shane and Undertaker as some people are. I think I'm definitely focusing on this as it's a 46-year-old man versus a 51-year-old man and everything like that. And the whole angle just seems like just desperation. I mean, this whole WrestleMania just reeks of desperation. It's amazing because they've drawn the legitimately largest crowd they'll probably ever draw. If anybody isn't familiar with that news yet, yeah, Mania is going to be the biggest ever, legit. And it's so ironic because it's filled with desperation booking and just like, well, we don't know what to do. So many guys are hurt. Bring Shane and Undertaker in and everything. You know what I mean? So, like, I like seeing the glory days. I have no problem with it, and I can enjoy it for what it is. But I hate that it had to be this way because they can't get anything else. And to go back to Owens, I'll tie this back with Owens. The worst thing I saw tonight, not the worst thing, but the thing that pissed me off the most, yet again, we're getting a 7-man clusterfuck ladder match that I call the waste of talent ladder match, full of 7 guys, and this time 3 of whom have zero business. Well, 2 of whom have zero business being in that match. I want Zack Ryder to get his payday, and I want Sin Cara to get his Mania payday and everything like that. I'm sure they're great guys, but they do not belong in there. Cody does, not Stardust, but whatever. You have to deal with it. And they just take this opportunity to even at least just give us like, an interesting, like, 4-man elimination match or something, since you're hell-bent on having Ziggler and Miz in there along with Sami and Owens. That's fine. Instead, you just lazily go, throw a bunch of guys out there with a ladder and it'll be good. Like, I'm sure the match will be good. I'm sure I'll enjoy it. There might be a holy shit spot that I jump up out of my chair for, but I hate that it just happened that way. There's no passion behind it at all.
I actually didn't like that whole transaction overall. A couple things, and I want to spend some time here because I know the Smarks want to see Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens, which is fine. I don't know if that needs to be done at WrestleMania, but I get why. I get the history. That's fine. So I was under the impression tonight that there was going to be the triple threat match he asked for. He was just backpedaling in the fact he essentially, I thought, just made the match between Ziggler, Miz, and Zayn. So I'm deducting Zayn's going to win that match and go on to face Owens, and the Smarks get what they want. Which, you know what? I'm thinking to myself, we haven't seen it before in a WWE ring. We've seen it in an NXT ring, and you've certainly seen it in an ROH ring. You know what?
Or at the very least, that triple threat could have been like, booked to be like a DQ or a three-way countout or something, and it would set up that kind of four-way. Because as a Smart, I want to see Owens and Zayn fight forever, like every other Smart
really
out there.
I really need to finish my point. That's not where I have a problem. Okay. Where I have a problem is that Owens came back out and basically buried 3 people. And in today's WWE, there's really no jobbers. So if you're going to have jobbers and you're going to have guys to establish a hierarchy, then you don't do what they did here, because Owens essentially picked Stardust, Zack Ryder, and Sin Cara because he viewed them as the 3 weakest people on the roster. And that was his idea. And I mean, even the way he introduced them, he was mocking them. So he put these 3 people in who were meant to be a joke. So to make matters worse, when those folks don't necessarily put a win away, no one wins, and then Miz, Ziggler, and Zayn come out, essentially the whole thing gets thrown out. So what I don't understand is, why does Stephanie McMahon, instead of saying, well, you know what, your punishment is, instead of getting one of the 3 guys that's in the title contention, we're going to give you all 3. I don't understand how how Sin Cara, Stardust, and Zack Ryder get in this match. And then if they do get in this match, isn't the whole thing that was just established by this skit is that they're not seen as players? So I don't get the whole transaction.
No, you're right. I agree. He brought him in essentially as jobbers. He said to the crowd, not literally, but he said to the crowd, like, I'm going to let these morons fight out, and I'm going to pick up an easy win at WrestleMania because I am so smart, which is great for his character. That was fine. But he brought him in as jobbers, and they wind up actually making the Mania match anyway. Like, how are we supposed to care about these 3 guys? Bad enough that Cody is now a jobber at this point. Like, that just breaks my heart to see. Because I love Cody. Cody is a guy that turns chicken shit into chicken salad on a daily basis with all these gimmicks and whatever they give him. Like, and now they brought him out. He trotted him right out there along with Ryder, who is a jobber, and Sin Cara, who's another guy who shouldn't be, because the Lucha Dragons are a viable tag team that they didn't get enough of their, they didn't maximize their potential, like, at all, like, whatsoever. Like, so, but yet, these guys are brought out as jobbers, and now, they've made the match, and they're basically just fodder in there to keep, I think the angle is to keep, and one of the angles, to keep Sammy and Kevin, Owens rather, occupied until they eventually clear the ring and it's just the 2 of them, and then they lock up and we get that tiny little Mania moment. And to go back to what I was in the process of saying, sorry for domineering there, like, I want to see Kevin Owens and Zayn at Mania, but I didn't want it thrown together with a week to go before the show. I would much rather have them be like a match that's hyped up for, like something that, like, I can't wait for these guys to tear into each other, not just, these 2 guys know each other, and next week they're going to fight at Mania. See you later, folks. I didn't really want it. So, like you said, when they had that, I thought the triple threat match was a great idea. I thought it ended in a schmoz of some kind, and we get like a 4-way, and maybe they could make it an elimination 4-way, so it would come down to Kevin and Sammy, and Mania could be the start of this giant feud, and they could take it all the way to next Mania. We all know that. But instead, like you said, they do an angle where Kevin Owens treats 3 guys like jobbers, and the jobbers end up in the match. And now everything is so watered down. Why do you care about it at all? And I don't. That's the shame of it.
It is true, because in reality is WWE will throw back, well, it's our loyalty to get everybody on the card. I mean, honestly, if you want to give people money, just give it to them, because why should we be punished and be forced to watch the Andre Battle Royal, where you're going to pay all those people for showing up, and then watch this match so you can pay all these people for showing up, when in reality it's your showcase of the best matches you can possibly field. So you're essentially punishing us. Yeah.
And I guess that guys are pulling double duty in this the Battle Royal, which we call the Armbar, the Andre Rusimov Memorial Battle Royal Armbar. I guess the guys are pulling double duty because now who the hell's left to go in it? You know, we know the Wyatts are in it. Maybe or not. Bray, we don't know. His back injury that he's been working through right now may limit what he does, but there's also hints that he might be part of some big angle for the Mania show. I don't know. I don't put any stock into it until it actually happens. But like, how many guys are left to fill up this battle royal? Like, especially now that you took 3 guys that were obviously set for it and thrown them into inarguably a much bigger match.
Right, and I mean, who cares who wins the Andre Battle Royal anyway? I mean, that thing is
who's left,
and it's not going to mean anything. So, you know, I agree. I think the Intercontinental title. What blows my mind is if you're going to do the 7-man match, it goes back to you got to wonder, you know, if somebody's cut it in for certain guys, because wouldn't you just take the 5 guys, the 3 plus Miz and Ziggler, and then throw them into the Kalisto Ryback match? No, instead, you're going to give a lesser title, the U.S. title, and lesser superstars, Kalisto and Ryback, their own forum and their own match at WrestleMania, but you're not going to give Kevin Owens, who literally at SummerSlam was the hottest guy in the entire federation. You're going to throw, I mean, I don't get it. I don't understand why Kalisto and Ryback are getting their own match.
I really think that Kalisto and Ryback, or as I call him, Royback, I really do think that Kalisto and Royback and maybe that other Divas tag match that they may or may not remember to set up for the actual show, I think those will be your pre-show matches. I think that the show's going to open with the Battle Royal this year. You know, they like to shuffle it around, and last year they opened with the IC title match, and since they're just doing it all over again, I think maybe somebody will be smart enough to go, we should probably not have this open, you know, 2 years in a row. I don't think they opened 2 years in a row with the Money in the Bank, if I remember correctly. So I think that at least it's going to be a pre-show. But yeah, I mean, how criminal is that? That Royback, who is not over in the slightest, last week he came out and to complete silence. And, you know, and basically the U.S. title, which last year was defended, but was won by John friggin' Cena in the third match from the top. And now it's Kalisto versus a guy who nobody cares about in what's probably going to be a pre-show match. It's completely that's completely wasted there. But,
I feel better if it's pre-show match, honestly, because then it makes sense and then it's not a big deal. But if they put that on the WrestleMania card, and then these guys are forced in that 7-man match, that's a crime. I mean, you look at last year's pre-show, there was a tag team match that was absolutely thrown together. And it was the New Day versus, it was the tag title match. It was the New Day versus the Usos versus Sin Cara and Kalisto versus Matadors. And the match was awesome. It was no,
it was the Matadors and, Tyson Kidd and Cesaro. And yeah, the match was really, really awesome.
Right. It was a great match. It was like a really, really good match. It was like, man, I wish this match would have made WrestleMania. And then you had to sit through the Andre Battle Royal, and you're kind of like, and I think if I'm not mistaken, didn't they like the big deal was like someone from NXT would or this might have been the first year. Hideo Itami won one of the tournaments.
That was last year.
Yeah, he got eliminated like right away. It was like
a complete geek. Like a complete geek.
Well, that's
he was in.
Certain guys are just kind of like, you kind of got to wonder like what's going on here.
Which is why I don't want them to leave NXT. I mean, I guess you follow NXT. Like, do you disagree that TakeOver Dallas is going to blow Mania away in virtually every conceivable way, aside from crowd size?
Well, I mean, I don't know until I see it. I mean, on paper, the names obviously are not as big to the mainstream people, but every time I watch an NXT special, the quality of every single match, the energy, it just kills the main product, which is, but here's the thing though. I know you're not excited about Shane McMahon Undertaker.
That's an understatement.
They're going to be in a Hell in a Cell. There's going to be crazy stuff going on. And something big will happen in that match. I mean, it's going to be big. And
yeah, hopefully the big thing isn't Shane suffers a concussion 4 minutes in and they go home in 8.
I just don't know how we go from Rock and John Cena, as a main event at a main event at a WrestleMania to Triple H versus Roman Reigns. I just have zero interest in Triple H.
By the way, speaking, Rock we know is going to be there. Apparently, the word is that they don't have anything planned for him. It's all up to him. He's going to come up. They have something for Austin. They have something for HBK and all these other guys that they want to trot out, but they don't have anything for Rock. It's his call what he does. So who knows what that means? But like, it's kind of amazing. Speaking of Cena, like, okay, yeah, we know he's injured, and I'm sure he's looking forward to a year where he can just sit back and watch WrestleMania as a fan. But in order to really maximize the show with like so many guys hurt, where the hell has he been? How have they not trotted him out for anything at all? Like, that stymies me completely. Why is he not being used in anything? Oh, okay, he wants to watch the show as a fan. That's great. He can watch the show as a fan before he refs the main event to give it that little extra push and a little bit of intrigue. Or like the intrigue, the bombshell from Vince McMahon tonight. Well, we waited for that, and it was, this is only the Undertaker's last match, and he doesn't win, goddammit. And the whole crowd was like, oh, okay. He's like,
you know what? You're
he's
right.
Like 69 years old. Wow.
You're right. You can interject Cena as like a coach to Shane, but at the same point, like, we know Undertaker's character well enough to know that if he loses in his own match to Shane McMahon, he'd retire anyway. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
At WrestleMania, like, you don't have to add that stipulation. That's inherent about what we know about this character.
Right.
So
yeah, but I think that the match, I'm hoping it's good. I think it will be. I think Mania has that ability, especially last year, where you're watching just going, all right, let's just see what happens. And you walk out going, damn, that was great. Like, it has that quality and everything, but like, it's just hard to get invested into something that's just like, you can smell the desperation, and not just in this match, in everywhere. Like, remember on Mania where there's been cards where it's like, man, the most the gimmick ever got in any of these matches was one of the matches was no DQ or something. And now we have a 3-on-4 handicap match. We have a 3-way Divas match. We have a multi-man clusterfuck, IC clusterfuck match. We have a battle royal. We have a street fight and a Hell in a Cell match. And I still think I'm missing one.
The best thing to do would be have one-on-one matches. Just have your best on your best, and people would love it. People would love it. But here's the thing. You brought up the 3-on-4 match. I really hope they add someone to that match. I mean, if they really let that go 3-on-4, wow.
I actually disagree. I think keeping it handicap match, but the title still being on the line, is more interesting than just, oh, it's an 8-man tag and we found a partner for the show. I don't believe that anything in WrestleMania of all shows should feel thrown together or last minute, even if it comes down to the last minute. Save that shit for Payback and Battleground and bragging rights and whatever the hell else they want to, Fast Lane, whatever the hell else they want. Save that shit for those shows. This is WrestleMania. Even if your long-term plans get shot to hell, and they did this year by all these shoulder injuries, like, even if they get shot to hell, you should have backups. This is the one show that should be prepared for and having backup plans and all sorts of contingency plans because it's the biggest show. And like you said, it's a showcase. In fact, if somebody never watches wrestling and they watch one show a year, it's going to be WrestleMania, especially this year because they can see it for free.
Right. Well, if you look at that 3-on-4 match, though, that is a throwaway, man. I mean, it could have been interesting had you kept the New Day still heels. That would have been interesting to me. And
boy, they were so off tonight, weren't they?
Yeah, but I just feel like you gave away the money match to me. The money match to me is, I always thought Sheamus and Barrett are a great pairing. I like them together, and I like the New Day as tag champs. So you gave that away at Roadblock. There's nothing more to see here, right? Even Jericho Styles, we've seen them fight 3 times. Styles won the series. Why are we going through all this? Why can't we simply? You could move people around. I mean, you could have Styles take on anybody. It would be interesting, and just to throw that same person out there. How about Styles versus Del Rio? That would be better than wasting. You're right. You could put Styles versus Del Rio and put Jericho versus anyone.
If the point of that match is there's our new hot guy, AJ Styles, then yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's better than, and they referenced it tonight, which amazed me. That's better than what they tried to do at WrestleMania 29 with like having Fandango go over Jericho, because at the time Vince was so entertained by Fandango and he loved it, and then he got bored a couple weeks later and it was over. Like thinking, I watched that tonight and it made me remember, and I just got angry because I'm like, that was such a goddamn waste having Fandango of all people go over a former multi-time world champion and legit draw like Jericho. Like you made me remember that garbage. Like, so if the point was, but if you take that and you try to correlate it to AJ versus Del Rio, like you said, that's much better because Del Rio, at least, when he's been a victim of booking as well, but the league of geeks, for all their geekiness, basically, they have been not booked strong, but portrayed strong. So it's a big world of difference if AJ took on Del Rio and went over him there at Mania.
I think the booking has failed the League of Nations, but for sure. But there is actually a lot of chemistry between those guys, for sure. Like, just watching them interact, I mean, I really like the group of them together. I actually think these people genuinely like each other.
True. I mean, tonight, when the New Day, again, who came out and just, they can't all be winners, I know that, but their promo tonight was just like, clearly that was like, somebody grabbed them on their way out, and maybe Michael Hayes was like, hey, you guys are faces now, so here's the 15 bullet points you have to memorize, because they were so out of it and just like, it's so scripted beyond belief. It was such a bad promo for them, which is a shame because I love them. And then the camera pans to the league, and they're no-selling the hell out of it. They're laughing at them with this look like, oh, God, you guys are bombing and crashing and burning, and we love it because you always make us look bad. Like, and you agree that you watch in that moment, you watch them, and you're like, oh, these two guys actually get along. Like, they work well together. They do. They're like everybody else. They're just a victim of booking. I never had a problem with the League of Nations as a concept. It's just they put them together and then they throw them out there to die most of the time. But as a concept, you could definitely do worse because they do have a chemistry.
I love the little things Rusev does. And I'll tell you, it was right after that WrestleMania where he had the excellent entrance, he had a great run, and, Cena put him down hard, and we knew that was going to happen. But after that point, he has become this touchy-feely, happy-go-lucky lover. He hugs everybody. He's always pumping up his friends. I actually I find Rusev's character very endearing. I'm not kidding you. I've brought it up here on the show. But, one time Wade Barrett won a match, and it was when he was wearing the crown. And after he won the match, Rusev, was there at ringside, and he was so excited that he actually put the crown on Barrett and started pointing at him like, he's the man. And I'm thinking Rusev's character 6 months ago was a wrecking machine that was unstoppable, and now he's putting a crown on Wade Barrett.
It's definitely showing more resiliency to the guy than I thought he had last year. That's for sure. Although I did really enjoy his program with Cena and everything. I wondered how much, how resilient, how much could they really get out of this guy? And like you said, now he's taken a subtle turn into I don't want to say wacky heel like a detriment. He's doing it very well. I agree. Although, did you catch tonight? One thing I noticed tonight was he's back to speaking in broken English again. When correct me if I'm wrong, I think over the summer he was speaking perfect English. I thought that was kind of weird. They just kind of reverted back to that.
Well, I don't know. I think that is not good. They're doing that. That's like Kofi losing his accent, as it was noted a few weeks ago. It'll be interesting to see kind of how this thing ends, because I would assume the New Day is gonna retain. But if they do, where does that really leave the League of Nations? It's probably not good.
No, not at all. Well, for one thing, Barrett's on his way out the door. He's made no secret about that. So you can guarantee he's eating the pin.
Yeah, I know that. Why is he really leaving though? I'm really surprised by that he wouldn't just wait it out.
tremendously underutilized, you know. I mean, especially when he came in, and he's made super. You watch the Nexus matches and him now, and he's so much better and everything. But he just underutilized. He wins King of the Ring, and then proceeds to use that as like, you know, a crutch to make. You know, now everybody can beat him, and when you beat the King of the Ring, it means more, without remembering that you're devaluing your King of the Ring title like every time that happens. Part of it is his own fault. He's pretty injury prone, you know, like he's been gone for large patches of the last couple of years because something would happen to him, you know, and he would throw a shoulder out or, you know, tear a muscle and he'd be gone. So I think they're hesitant because he's a little injury prone, but hesitant because the injury prone does not explain why they took away the Bad News Barrett gimmick, which he single-handedly made so awesome. You know, so awesome was that. When it happened, I was like, oh God, this is stupid. And like Cody Rhodes does when they give him a gimmick, man, he made it work so well. And then Vince got bored, and then they just stopped, and it was like, oh, okay. And, you know, and then that's it. So I think that can only happen for so many times. That was 6 years now before he's just like, all right, you know, maybe I can go to Ring of Honor and actually be like, pushed as a legit champion. Maybe I can go to New Japan and be pushed as like a legit threat, you know, whole kind of deal, as opposed to the start-stop, 50-50 booking crap.
To your point, though, about Wade Barrett's Nexus run, which we talk about a lot here, and how much we love that run, and what a mistake was made when Cena went over the Nexus in that 7-man tag match.
Oh, but God, yeah. Even he regrets it.
Oh, I'm sure. But think about it, though. Like, if Wade Barrett, you know, he came very close to winning the title. He had the power struggle with CM Punk with the Nexus. And it makes you wonder. You look at Undertaker right now, right? Fighting Shane McMahon. If booked properly, Wade Barrett could be in that spot today in WrestleMania against Undertaker. And now he's the 4th guy out the door in the League of Nations. It blows my mind, man. It blows.
Funny you say that. It was in one of the last Observer issues, maybe the last one or so, where Dave kind of went over, like, they were bringing up something that's like threats to the Undertaker and the streak and everything, and like Wade Barrett at one point was in serious contention to be the one who broke the streak. You know, they literally looked at it as like, well, if we can give it, we can make a superstar overnight with this thing. They considered it for Randy Orton during the Legend Killer thing, and they considered it for Wade Barrett. And like you said, look at him now. Now he's like, I'm getting bored. I'm going to get out of here.
It actually did work for Brock Lesnar, and I hated it at the time, but they went all the way with Brock. They made him the killing machine. I haven't seen anyone get a run of dominance since Hulk Hogan 80s that Brock Lesnar had. The way he just destroyed Cena, and then the way he destroyed Cena and Rollins at Royal Rumble last year. I mean, Lesnar's run was something else. And this is a guy who got completely damaged after his UFC run, where he had to put over both John Cena and Triple H, which is complete bullshit. And then they really got it back with The Undertaker. So they actually did right. No one remembers any of that now. They just remember.
I don't understand it. Like, I don't understand it, like, when he came in, because it's like, okay, they don't know if he's, like, is he really back? Does he really care? Is he just back for a paycheck? Is he gonna, if we ask him to lose, is he gonna say screw this and leave? So let's not have him destroy our top guy and then just peace out the next day because he didn't like something. So I think that's a risk they should have taken anyway, but, like, because Brian Alvarez did a famous rant where he's just like, the stars will never align like that again, guys. You'll never get the UFC former heavyweight champion who basically had to abdicate it when he left, so he never really lost it. Like, I think, like, you're never going to get that ever again. But I understand the thought process why. You know, I mean, when the WrestleMania 30, when he broke the streak, I mean, I love that moment as a moment. I think it was pretty goddamn detrimental moving forward to certain things like The Undertaker and WrestleMania, and the fact that the streak was a commodity in and of itself. But as a moment, I'll never forget sitting in my friend's house, like grabbing a slice of pizza, watching that 3 count and dropping the slice on the floor and looking at my friend Dominic next to me was like, did somebody fuck up? Like, we're as a whole watching, what is it, like 60, 70,000 people collectively gasp and you don't hear a sound. It's an amazing moment. But you know why the whole reason why that moment was set up, and then the run that followed, was to make him the unstoppable beast that Roman Reigns would conquer and begin his ascendancy. He was supposed to destroy Daniel Bryan and not Cena at that SummerSlam before Bryan's injury that took him out, and then he just would have continued on that reign, and then that puts Reigns over for good at WrestleMania 31, destroying the beast that even John Cena couldn't beat. But didn't work out that way, did it?
No, and I'm glad.
Yeah, I agree. Brock as a commodity is much more important than using him even for a year to set up, the chosen one that nobody's chosen.
Right. And, man, and the door's always open for Brock Lesnar, it just, but I do go back to that moment though, when they did sign him. You got to wonder how it went in that agent meeting where they're like, okay, Brock, you're our highest paid guy like ever. You're the UFC world champion. Well, you are, and now you're in WWE. By the way, yeah, you're here, and John Cena's gonna go over you. Like somebody told me that. Like that match happened, so somebody actually had to sit down with him and be like, yeah, so we spent all this money for you. We wanted to have you, and yeah, we're gonna have John Cena go over you.
Well, I mean, he did say on the Stone Cold podcast that it's a job to him, like, and not the job as in doing a job, but like it's work. So he doesn't really care if he doesn't agree with something. He's not going to agree with something based on like stupidity. Like when they asked him to like take a loss, and I'm sure they told him like, look, we don't know how this is going to work out. You might not be happy here and not want to stay, and you're not afraid to leave, and we know that. I totally believe when they meet with Brock Lesnar, they address every elephant in the room and just like they completely do it, like look each other in the eye and just make no bones about anything. So I can imagine that meeting going like, we know you're not afraid to leave, and so because of that, we kind of want John to go over in this match, but you guys are going to beat the ever-living shit out of each other, and we'll allow some blood in ways, and people will talk about it for a long time. And I can see why he was like, yeah, that's fine, the whole thing, and maybe they brought it. Then you'll beat Triple H at SummerSlam. It's a job to Brock, as long as it's done well, and these things were in and of themselves done well. He rolls with it. So
well, I will say this, to John Cena's credit, he did give back that win at a later date in a huge way. So I guess it did even out for real.
Well, yeah, I mean, he definitely did. I mean, I like John Cena as a person, Right. He hasn't actually been featured so long, I'm starting to forget that he was an active wrestler. But I like him as a person. So I absolutely, he says he regrets, like you said, the next thing he regrets beating them. I believe it. He does regret it. I'm sure he was like, okay, you let me go over Brock in that match, so I'm going to let you beat me like a redheaded stepchild, so to speak, and trounce me in effort to get this other guy, long-term plan to get this other guy over. And everything. I absolutely believe it.
Of John Cena. I mean, that really, on top of the Undertaker's win, that was this like, I'll never forget that match. And it really doesn't change my opinion of Cena. It just reminds me that like in UFC, on any day, someone could rock somebody and it just isn't your day, and that it doesn't mean Cena's not capable of beating John Cena, because he certainly is, or Cena's not capable of beating Lesnar, he certainly is. But it just goes to show you that when Brock Lesnar gets on a run, you can't stop him. You can't beat him. He's just unbeatable when he's hot.
So speaking of that, how are you digging the program with Ambrose at WrestleMania?
I love it because I don't think Lesnar knows what to make of Dean Ambrose, and I think in a way Dean Ambrose just taking these incredible beatdowns, it's almost getting in Lesnar's head. However, Lesnar doesn't want to admit it, but you can see how much he enjoys Ambrose's antics. That Lesnar, for the first time, actually appears to be respecting his opponent, which I haven't seen.
Keep in mind, Brock's a face now, sort of. He's sort of a tweener area, but he's not, the unstoppable monster heel anymore. Like, he did that sort of unofficial, that weird quasi kind of turn. So I'm not surprised at doing it with some story. I agree. By the way, tonight, with Terry Funk showing up, and I live in Philadelphia, that bar was not in a good neighborhood. You could tell they were there at 9 a.m, for a reason. That is not a good part of town, so they scoped their location out pretty well. I thought that was great. I love the correlations that they're showing there, without saying that, Ambrose was in the indie scene in CZW and did a lot of hardcore, brutal death matches and everything. He's used to that and he's crazy. They are referencing it sort of like in more of an ECW way, which I totally get. But I like that Brock is sort of like respecting how crazy he is. I also think it's really, really smart. Credit to whoever came up with it, that so many guys try to beat Brock power for power. Reigns tried at WrestleMania last year and got beat down. Cena tried, like in that match that you mentioned, and got beat down. All these guys take a running start. Seth tried to be faster than him, but still tried to strike him at every count. And it looks like I love the idea that Ambrose realizes the only way he's going to beat this guy is with extreme violence. And when he started right away, like they didn't work their way up to a street fight. He just said, like, you gorilla, I want you in a street fight. Like, he knows right off the bat, I'm not going to come at you with power moves. I'm going to grab a weapon and try to bleed you like a stuck pig. Hopefully they let that happen, but who knows? So I like that aspect of it really well.
That's a good synopsis, actually. I never really thought of it like that. I think you're right. I think that's the build up with Foley and Funk, and it does make you believe that if there's any chance for him to beat him, he's in the right environment. And I wouldn't be overly shocked if Ambrose found a way, and it'll be ridiculous if Ambrose does win this match. He's gonna hit him with literally like a tractor or something. It's gonna be insane. But that's his character, and that's what makes Ambrose awesome. He's resilient. And Ambrose is kind of an underdog. At Roadblock, I was convinced he was walking out with the title.
Hello, Raw Reaction listeners. Show producer Killer Kev here. Unfortunately, we had some technical difficulties and all of our connections crashed and we could not reestablish connections with anything for the night. So unfortunately, this is the cliffhanger ending for the Raw Reaction. Tune back in next week when Big Dick will be back with us, along with Angry Tenzai. And a very big thank you to Doug Sadia, a.k.a. Big Doug, for stepping in tonight. And we are sure to be bringing him back on the air in the future. So thanks for listening to the Raw Reaction, and we will see you again next week.